Yo, Shortbox Nation, this is Botter, and I'm here to tell you right now that con season starts early this year with the return of Northeast Florida's premier anime, comic book, and sci-fi event, Collective Con. That's right, Northeast Florida's largest pop culture convention returns for its 10th year on March 8th through the 10th at the Prime Osborne Center in Jacksonville, Florida. 10 years of Collective Con, they're pulling all the stops out to make sure this is a can't-miss event. And the guest list they got going, don't even get me started on the guest list. I mean, they've got A-list celebrity guests and voice actors from some of your favorite movies, anime, and video games like Elijah Wood and Sean Ashton, Ray Park, Trisha Helfer, Ross Marquand, Max Middleman, and Bo-Katan herself will be there, Katie Sackhoff. Tell me what other convention is giving you the opportunity to meet Frodo and Sam from Lord of the Rings, Darth Maul, and One Punch Man all under the same roof. Only at Collective Con. And if you're looking to get some of your favorite comics signed, or if you want to get an original sketch from some of the best comic artists in the world, well, you're in luck, because there'll be plenty of comic and creator guests there, like DC comic artist extraordinaire Clay Mann, Harvey Award-nominated illustrator John Taylor Christopher, Marvel and DC cover artist Chris Stevens, and acclaimed Star Wars author Timothy Zahn. They'll all be at Collective Con this year. And if you're looking to bring the family, or if you want to make a weekend out of it, you're in luck, because there'll be so much going on at Collective Con that weekend in the form of vendors, fan panels, video game tournaments, cosplay contests, after parties, and a bunch of fan events. You can purchase single and 3-day weekend passes now using the link in this episode's show notes, or by going to collectivecon.com to book your tickets and hotel. Buy your tickets now, and I'll see you at Collective Con, March 8th through the 10th. Now let's start the show.
Heard stories. I know you're good at killing. You're probably none too happy to see me wearing this hardware. So, I figure only one of us walking out of here. But then I see the little guy, and I think maybe I pegged you wrong.
Shortbox Nation, welcome to a special bonus episode, a Shortbox short, if you will. This is a little spin-off from our regular weekly episodes where we do comic reviews and comic interviews. With the debut of Season 2 of The Mandalorian, we figured why not go ahead and try to recapture some of that weekly television viewing magic. We did something pretty similar like this last summer for the Game of Thrones Season 8 series. And with Mandalorian Season 2 starting, we figured why not put some more work on our plate and more sleepless nights editing, but why not go ahead and give you guys some new weekly episodes to go ahead and enjoy. For those of you unfamiliar, my name is Botter Milligan. I will be your host today, and I'm joined by a full crew, some new voices and faces on this episode. Here with me in the studio, I've got Blythe Brumley returning to the microphone.
Hello, hello.
Calling in, I've got my right-hand man, Cesar Cordero. Thank you. See, who needs intro music when I've got you, buddy?
And it sounded a little patronizing, but okay, I'll take it.
And last but not least, we've got a good friend of the show, one of our favorite Star Wars correspondents, joining us for this episode. It'd only be right because, Warren would continue to yell at me for not having Lars on a Star Wars episode. We've got Lars Lundquist on the mic as well.
What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up, Lars?
Hey.
All right. So as I said, this will be our Star Wars Mandalorian weekly series. This episode, of course, covers the debut episode, so episode 1. So if you haven't watched this episode, go ahead and pause, watch it, and come back because it's going to be filled with spoilers here.
Yo, hold on. Seriously, yeah. I cannot stress enough how big a deal that we say spoiler fucking alert. Like,
changing
seriously.
The history of Star Wars.
Like, yeah, you know what though? Not foreign to this show or Dave Filoni.
Yeah. So if you haven't watched episode 1, The Marshal, then go ahead and take a break. Or if you don't really care for spoilers, then continue on because we're gonna go from here. Yeah, and I want to go ahead and give a quick shout out at the top to David, Mecca the Marvelous, one half of our production team. He went ahead and spiced things up with a new unique intro song for this series. So you might recognize the tune at the beginning. But
a lot of F words in it.
Yeah. No rapping, just instrumental. But he went ahead and remixed the Mandalorian intro, and I think it's pretty cool. I want to go ahead and jump in about this episode.
Hold on. Can we set it up a little bit, my man? First off, let's start off with season 2, episode 1 of The Mandalorian, entitled The Marshal. And let's talk about some of the players real quick, just show them a little love. Of course, Pedro Pascal is our favorite Mandalorian. We have guest starring Amy Sedaris as Peli Motto. Of course, she was in season 1 and she was really great. Kind of added that sort of like mother figure there. John Leguizamo, of all people, as Gor Koresh, which was freaking fantastic. And Timothy Olyphantastic as the Marshal of Moscalago, Cobb Vanth, reprising his role as somewhat of an outlaw, a la Deadwood, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and as the Spirit of the West in Rango. Yeah, that's right, Rango. That's a deep cut there for you kids. So anyway, we've set it up, and now let us begin, please.
How many times have you guys watched it so far? It's Sunday that we're recording.
I watched
Twice.
4 times.
Damn! Well, I mean, that's kind of like low numbers for you, Lars.
It's not that bad. Yeah, I had a little bit of time.
Lars, can I ask you how you watch it? Do you just watch it straight through, or do you take notes?
It's
what is
IV.
your watch?
From IV straight to his veins.
My first watch, because I had a bunch of shit to do the day it dropped, I ended up watching it at the shop, just going, oh my God, in the middle of work, and then watched it again in my house. No, I just watch it straight through mostly. This last time I like paused, backed some things up, had the subtitles on, that kind of thing. But yeah.
What about you,
For
C?
the uninitiated, aren't you a tattoo artist?
I am. I wasn't doing it while I was tattooing, just like eating my breakfast in the morning. Eating my breakfast in the morning and like yelling in the back room with headphones on, and everyone's looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah, this dude's like, yeah, I wanted a portrait of
shit.
I wanted a portrait of my mom. You drew Baby Yoda on my toe. C, what about you, man? Were you pretty hyped for this season debut?
Yeah, actually, the show is doing a lot of things right, and it feels a lot like a late 70s, early 80s TV show where everything is kind of wrapped up in the end. And if there is like sort of like a continuing thread of story arc, they don't really focus too hard on it. It doesn't really eclipse the major story. It's actually kind of the opposite of prestige television, which is probably why I like it so much. It's like Bounty Law with Jake Cahill. Like it's good.
Blythe, what about you? What was your initial opinions and reactions to this episode?
I would say it was definitely highly anticipated just because of the initial release date. It's a few days before probably the most contentious election in, U.S. history. So it was one of those like, oh, thank God we're going to have this right before the world ends.
What about you, man?
Oh, no one really cares about my opinion. Dude, it's all good, man. We'll keep
That's a lie, man. No.
This was a drop during like a very busy week, just from like a comic book perspective. A lot of things came out Wednesday that had my attention, and then it was like Halloween and stuff like that. So I think with everything going on, I was a little distracted from the drop, but then kind of like, the first viewing, getting on that couch and like getting ready to watch like, something Star Wars. There's always like that sense of like magic and excitement for it. And it definitely didn't, that wasn't lost this go around neither. If anything, I was very happy and excited when Mandalorian and the child showed up on screen. It was like old friends.
Right. Thank you for your honesty, Botter. All right. Blythe, Lars, I think we're going to have to take this somewhere else.
Yeah, we'll call you, Mr. Host Guy. But Lars, did you have any, was the bar set pretty high? Were you a big fan of season 1 overall? We had you on a few times, and I remember you singing his praises.
I've watched it through so the first episode I probably watched a dozen times at least by now, and I watched the full season through like 3 or 4 times by now as well. But still, yeah, I mean, the bar was set high, and I feel like this first episode, like somehow, as beautiful as all of season 1 was, I thought the production value was just even crazier. Like I thought it was like, I don't know, it was really pretty.
The cinematography.
And like, I just want to know. I can't wait to the end of the season to see their behind the scenes stuff, to see how some of this stuff was done. Like I thought a Krayt Dragon looked really cool. I don't know. Nothing hit flat for me with this first episode.
I mean, the
I'm there with
cinematography
you.
was standout. I think all of season one, that was one of the big takeaways that I had, and just to see that production value continue into the second season. Not just some of the scenes that they show, especially like the desert scenes with like the Tusken Raiders riding through. That was really captivating to me. And then just from like the CGI perspective and the acting perspective, it really was just, it keeps getting better and better. And I think it's a great show overall, not just for the diehards, but also for any kind of newcomers that are coming to the scene.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, like, this first episode kind of reminds everyone about the tone of the show. It is a Western, period, dot. Like, it lays it on so thick. He literally rides into a new town on a horse. Granted, that horse is a speeder bike, but he's literally riding into town, and you hear like an acoustic guitar doing sort of like Mexican sounding, sort of like let's see here, Phrygian scales. And it's a Western, and it just happens to be in the West of a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's freaking awesome. Dude, Timothy Oliphant literally says, "What brings you here, stranger?"
Yeah. It was very
it's
like
so good.
His accents and everything. I was like, oh man, this is sick.
And they almost had a duel right in the bar itself.
Yes.
Yeah, they was keeping it moving. I felt like this episode was a perfect amalgam of episode 1 and 2 from season 1. Episode 1 was kind of like, we saw him enter a CD bar looking for, his mark. Episode 2 of season 1 was, the desert fight with, the mud horn and the child showing its powers. So I thought this was like a perfect amalgam, both like setting wise and also like tonal.
I was going to say that's one of the things that the Mandalorian kind of does right, in the sense that it brings the scale way, 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 way back down, like right down to the human level,
Yeah.
And everything they introduce as far as quote unquote world building isn't for world building's sake. Like you soon at the first scene he comes in, you see those weird little red eyes in that town, when he's about to basically interrogate John Leguizamo's character. And you're like, it's funny. I was watching it with Sarah, and she was like, "What are those red-eyed creatures in the shadows?" And I was like, "I don't know, but they don't look happy." And then at the end of that scene, they serve a purpose. They're not just
good storytelling.
there.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Like everything they do is tight. It's completely tight, and there's a reason for everything. It's great.
One of my favorite things from season 1 that I'm already kind of, they've already kind of hit for me is I love the cameos and his, co-leads and the different actors they introduced, like, Carl Weathers, Bill Burr from season 1 and a few others. And we're already getting like, a special, I think, cameo and is a co-lead in this one with Tim Oliphant. Is it Oliphant? Am I saying it right?
Oliphant. Yeah.
Oliphant. Thank you so much. Huh?
There's another Deadwood star. I don't know if you guys noticed the Weequay bartender was played by the dude that played
Earl Brown
and Doherty from Deadwood. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I wanted to get the group's thoughts on the supporting cast, specifically co-lead Tim Oliphant. Life, I'll start out with you.
I think I think for standout for me was more of the depth that was added to the Tusken Raiders. This was just sort of like an off character, a side character from the original trilogy, and coming into the first season of The Mandalorian, you saw a little bit more from them. You saw the bartering, you saw the sign language, and then in this season you start to see more depth of them. You got the one raider that's brushing the teeth of, what is it, the banthas? Is that what they're called?
Mm-hmm.
They're brushing those teeth. They're talking about their culture, cool. The drinks, how long they've studied the crate dragon or the cycle of the dragon itself. So there was a lot more depth added to those characters, and these characters have been around for generations. And to get a little bit more information on them, I thought was in a little bit of like an added piece to the pie.
Yeah, well said. Lars, you want to chime in on that?
I mean, I think he was everything he should have been. He's a little cheesy, but that was like cool. He's actually a character from Aftermath, a book that's currently canon. He was in a story in that, which is cool to bring more of that into this, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, like he was cheesy, but in a really good way to me. I'm trying to think of who else like stood out. Amy Sudeikis, like her character's really cool. She adds like a little, bit to every scene she's in. I enjoy her character a whole lot. Like the funny babysitter and the little pit droids, you know, like a little bit of relief humor.
Yo, this is Botter. Sorry for interrupting this episode, but I'll keep it brief. I wanted to let you know about a massive sale we have going on over at the Shortbox store on all of our merchandise and apparel. That's theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com. You can now save 20% off your entire order using the discount code YOO, Y-O-O. So if you've been waiting for the right time to finally buy that gauntlet snapback, or if you ever wanted to buy any of the shirts you see me wear on the podcast, well, now's your chance to get them for a steal. We still have a few sizes left of everything, but they won't last long, and once they're gone, they are gone. And then I mentioned that all of our apparel is screen printed on high quality material. None of that heat transfer or direct to garment stuff. Our shirts are some of the most comfortable ones you'll ever wear, and the hats look even better in person. So wear your support for the Shortbox Nation proudly, knowing that you're going to look damn good doing it. Get to theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com as soon as you can, and don't forget to use that discount code YOO, Y-O-O, to save 20% off your entire order. All of this information can be found in this episode's show notes if you want to get there faster. Thanks for not pressing fast forward. Now back to the show.
Well, I was going to say, I think this is also kind of setting the tone as well for this, hopefully in a good way as far as the series is concerned. And, you know, this is all more or less a retro TV show, you know, like I mentioned Bounty Law with Jay Cahill. That's a reference to, you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which Timothy Oliphant was in. And I don't think that's a mistake. And that movie and this show are both kind of like love letters to, you know, the serialized teleplays where you would get a guest star every episode, you know, like it's like guest starring Timothy Oliphant as the Marshal of Mospelago, you know, like it's, the next episode or the next few episodes, who knows? You know, I heard Michael Biehn was on the roster as far as like people that are going to be showing up, you know, so it's nice to see that, you know, this is more or less kind of like there's an intentional way they're formatting this. And I think that's kind of something that stands out to me as somebody who just kind of like wants to see something fresh and more or less kind of like people that are fans, they get the service, sure, but people that aren't fans, they don't feel like they're being gatekept against. And it's basically a show that anybody can jump on board with, which is what, you know, the original movies from the 70s were all about, you know, like they were just good.
I brought that up too, Blythe, about this show, is that, you know, there was a scene where Cobb Vanth tells or asks Mandalorian when they're talking about the Sarlacc pit, and he's like, I've never, you know, something to the effect of, I've never seen a Sarlacc pit without a Sarlacc. And then the Mandalorian is like, well, unless you eat the Sarlacc. And just that small kind of back and forth kind of solidified, like, man, this is a show that, you know, is still reinventing like the lore and the material, like the classic material that like diehard fans kind of base their knowledge on. Like it's still cool to see them still flip it and still kind of like find different angles to go about it.
That's really good as far as Filoni and Favreau, which is they're an interesting combination. It's almost like a Spielberg Lucas combo there, where like you have sort of like an idea man, and you also kind of have a dude that says, all right, but let's keep this down here to earth and, you know, kind of try and make this, you know, approachable and everybody can do this almost that way. Cause I like to give Dave Filoni a little more credit. I think he likes people more than George Lucas does.
And see, I like this. I'm sorry. I was going to give you props. I really liked the word that you use, intentional. That was something with the first season that won me over, you know, was the length of each episode was relatively short in comparison to some like the modern day kind of TV you see, which is closer to an hour. We were getting like 30, 40 minutes, but they always felt like really tight episodes. And I guess you kind of filled in the gap for me. They always felt intentional. Like everything they did, all the scenes, the character choices felt like it belonged there. You know, it wasn't just fat for fat's sakes or filler, you know?
Sure. And Favreau's a smart guy, and so's Filoni. Like Favreau's smart. Filoni's a great storyteller. And they've both been known to throw fan service out the window for the sake of a better story, which I'm more than fine with, just because the story is what matters. And that's what people remember. You know, like you could be like, well, what color lightsaber was that? And argue about it for 10 years. But when it comes down to it, people are going to remember, oh my God, that was, you know, this story arc happened where this character found out that they were related to this person. and how did it affect them as a human being? Like that's, people don't remember Luke's lightsaber was green in Return of the Jedi. They remember, no, I am your father. Like it's
moments. Yeah, they remember moments.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Blythe, what character or moment or scene resonated or left an impression with you?
I mean, I would say probably the added. I already touched on the added depth of the Tusken Raiders, but I think the hints of where I'm personally not strong at when it comes to Star Wars, and that's the Knights of the Old Republic, the canon that comes from that, and then also the Clone Wars, where I guess in that first scene where you see all the graffiti art that's everywhere, and you could see a couple little Easter eggs in there. Watching a few YouTube videos after the first watch of season or episode 1, you find out that it's Sabine that comes from the Clone Wars, and how they touch a little bit on that in the graffiti art, and then with a lot of like the Krayt Dragon lore. I was reading some of that just before we started recording, and to hear that some of that insight comes from a video game, the Knights of the Old Republic, I thought was really fascinating. So it's one of those things that I want to dive into after we're finished recording.
I can tell you all about it if you want me to.
I think, both of us. I think.
Yeah, no.
Like 4 times.
Yeah, so Sabine, not to diss, she wasn't from Clone Wars, she was from Rebels, which was a good bit after. But she's a Mandalorian.
She's an artist.
She is an artist. Yeah, she carried around a spray paint can, and anytime she had a moment to like diss like a stormtrooper, or she would have these incendiary paint where she could like paint an object and it would make it explode. Like she could detonate it, which is pretty cool. And then, the Krayt Dragon Pearl was really cool. It's from Night of the Old Republic. This really popular character named Revan possessed one at some point, or you had the option to possess one at some point in the game. And so the idea behind the pearls is that the Krayt Dragons, they swallow rocks to help digest their food. And sometimes those rocks could contain kyber crystals. The normal rocks would dissolve eventually with the stomach acid, but rocks that had kyber crystals, which is why these were very rare, because a kyber crystal existing and it swallowing it would be a very rare occasion. When their stomach acid starts to break down the kyber crystal, which is what is used to make the blade project in a lightsaber, when they would be digested by the stomach acids, it would round it and turn into a pearl. So these things would stick around inside of their gut, and that's why they're very rare and also very powerful. Like you could use them in replacement of a kyber crystal in a lightsaber.
Huh. Well, I guess I'll have to research that afterwards now.
Yeah, you're making me want to play the game
awesome.
again, dude.
And I think that just speaks to what me and Sue were just talking about. Just like it caters to like both. In that scene, I think like we were both looking at each other like, why'd they show like why'd they have the camera hold on that pearl but never came back to it? And I guess they don't have to. It's still a cool moment and it fits within context. But I mean, obviously for someone that's invested in Star Wars lore like Lars, that I'm assuming Lars, I don't want to speak for you, but that was enough for you to be like, oh damn, that's a cool shout out for me. For my
Yeah. There's so much in this one episode. Like,
can you share?
Like you said, this show's very accessible. So like anybody, like any kid, could sit down and watch this, or some fucking lame ass 39-year-old like myself can watch it and get like 10 times more out of it, and be super hyped.
Hell yeah.
But what were you about to say, Botter? I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to know, were there any other Easter eggs that you wanted to highlight for
a ton.
Anyone listening?
So in Pelly's like docking bay, when she pulls up the Tatooine map, that's R5D4 from A New Hope.
Yes.
They even stop for a second and show where his motivator went bad.
Yes, I was about to say, I wanted to talk with you about that when you came on, because I was like, okay.
Yeah, that one I instantly knew, and I was like, fuck, that is really cool. She's like, I don't know. She's like, I don't even know who to complain to at this point. Like, she's had this shitty droid for so long.
Yes.
He only is around to pull up a map for a second or two. Some other ones, I think I wrote down some stuff that I noticed. So Cobb Vanth, whenever they jump on the speeders and start heading out to go on the Krayt Dragon hunt, Cobb Vanth speeder, I don't know if you caught it,
it's a damn pod racer.
The
turbine,
pod racer.
Right?
It's literally Anakin's. It might not be that one, but it is the same piece of a pod racer of like Anakin's pod racer that he built when he was a little kid. It's just one piece of it that's repurposed into a speeder bike, which was fucking cool. When the Mando first hits Mos Pelgo, he's like, all the townspeople are like sort of giving him an eye and looking. Like one guy walks by, and one of the guys that walks by is Sam Witwer, which is
Oh,
the
cool.
voice of Darth Maul, which is sort of cool. And he
Ah.
also was Star Killer from Force Unleashed, the video games. You know, I mean, the Gamorrean guards were cool. In the scene in the beginning, the fight scene, they were cool. They looked a little underweight to me. I feel like they should have been fatter.
Well, I think they
did CrossFit.
They make
They do
reference to
CrossFit.
them as female.
Say what?
So like, like he was like killer. Like one of them, I think John Leguizamo says shooter.
Shit.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
maybe I missed
they're
that.
both. I think they're both girls in there.
How awesome was John Leguizamo's performance? Like,
It was good. The CGI for that was good because that's not him in the costume, I guess. Because on IMDb it has him as the voice.
performance, and then the performance actor.
Yeah, I'm guessing so. Maybe there's like a green screen kind of thing. It looks CGI to me. What did you guys think?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was
That's what they
definitely
do with Baby
CGI,
Yoda.
yeah.
Is it's a puppet, and then they put extra CGI on top of it. So I'm sure
Yeah.
they did a little bit of that too.
right.
C. What about you, man? What was a standout scene or moment for you?
Anytime that the Mandalorian sort of acted like an ambassador between two opposing people groups, I think I had sent you that text, is just pure chef's kiss gold for me, man. Like navigating these treacherous waters of communication is not something that's foreign, and I think in this day and age. And Blythe kind of mentioned it earlier. You know, when people stop being friends with each other based on what bubble you filled out at the ballad, I think this episode has a great sort of morality tale as far as like, hey, conversation is still important, even in, you know, the most hardest living conditions. You know, don't be so quick to shoot first. You know, each of these little characters have their own arc. And I think I like that. I like that the Marshal goes from being a horrible communicator to being a leader in conflict resolution. You know, like the explosives, like he's the guy, not the Mandalorian, that kind of talks him down. Is like, hey, it was an accident, you know? And then he takes, you know, later on, he takes a sip from that booty ass pumpkin juice. And, you know, that's positive leadership. He's exposing himself to different cultures. He's learning to communicate. It's all great stuff, man. I think we live in a time where society wants to kind of have you pick a different enemy every week. And instead of seeking first to understand the nature of the real world and what makes all of us tick, you know, that's hard to do. But this show, and as the show and a wise person once said, this is the way, you know.
Well said. We're actually about 30 minutes into this episode, and I think this is a good point to go ahead and maybe reveal the biggest kind of, you know, spoiler for this episode, and that's the reveal and the cameo by Tamora Morrison, the original actor for Boba Fett. His reveal and cameo at the end of this episode.
Jango Fett.
Jango Fett.
Yeah, I was about to say,
so
yeah.
much. Sorry about that.
Technically not
Jango.
Boba Fett.
But Boba's a clone of Django, so same.
Right.
Yeah, that's where I was
Potato,
going.
potato.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Yeah, see, I like that. Thank you so much, Lars. You saw where I was going.
Technically Jeremy Bullock, but we won't.
Okay, anyway. Did that do anything for anyone? How did everyone feel seeing that, kind of getting the answer to, you know, I guess a question that we all kind of had, or at least a theory that I've seen a lot of people kind of have with his return back in episode, I think 5?
I think it was like great fan service. It's something people have been wanting for a long, long time. It's the proper time for the actor to play the part. Pretty much it just lined up really nice. Cool mysteriousness at the end when he turns. He's got all these scars on his face. When you see his back, he has a Tusken rifle and the Tusken melee, that weapon that they carry, the staff. And you turn him around and he's got these scars and burn type marks on his face. And obviously he's been through some shit, you know? He's walking around in a weird, like, almost Jedi-esque robe on Tatooine, like overseeing. He obviously knows what's going on. He saw the exchange between the Marshal and the Mandalorian with his armor. So what's next, you know?
Life, what did that cameo do for you?
I mean, it was kind of expected because everybody sort of theorized it back during season 1, where you heard the boot spurs and you saw the cape. I think the cape was the only thing that threw people off a little bit. And then when you finally get that big reveal, they did like a half reveal when you know the he shows up in the armor. The Marshal shows up with the armor on, and it's like, that's not the same guy. And then at the very end, you see the big reveal, and it's like, okay, where do we go from here? That's my big question, is how. And also, I think, Lars, I'm not sure if you can shed some light on it, but what are the theories of how he actually survived the Sarlacc pit?
I don't know. I saw some people saying that, like, kicking it back to that, it obviously perfect timing, but the Boba falls in Sarlacc. Sarlacc eats Boba. Krayt Dragon eats / kills Sarlacc. You know, maybe at the perfect opportune time for him to get out, but maybe without his armor. I don't know. But, you know, they made that quote, you know, that mention that the only way a Sarlacc is gone out of his pit is if a Krayt Dragon ate it. And there he is hanging out, like, right near it. But obviously that wasn't that. It was a little ways.
Is it
back.
maybe the armor that helps? Because the bile that was coming out of the Krayt Dragon killed a lot of the Tusken Raiders, and then Mando survived just fine.
Yeah, I tried to see where, like, there was no, like, that maybe it was just for Disney. They didn't want to show bodies melting, but they did really sort of tricky edits where it would spit up on the characters, like the Tuskens, and then it would instantly smash them, or
it
dust would fly over them. You didn't see what happened. So I don't know, but yeah, that could be a thing, you know, like it didn't dissolve. Like he could have just shit it out. Who knows?
I think I trust Dave Filoni and I trust Jon Favreau as far as telling a decent story. I don't think it's as important as everybody thinks it is. One, because the Mandalorian is a much cooler character. As far as Mandalorians are concerned, Sabine's a way cooler character than Boba Fett ever was, in my opinion. Too much Fett could get them in trouble. It could jeopardize a lot of the visual and thematic credibility that's kind of already been established on the show. I don't want to see him in the armor, because again, it's the same problem. It's kind of one of the same problems I had with Rogue One. As soon as you put Vader in the movie, it's like, oh, okay. So then every bad guy that you set up to be the bad guy is now diminished because you just put Darth Vader in the movie. So thematically, if they keep him sort of like a disgraced Mandalorian, you know, because that's something that Filoni did. You know, it's like, it's not a race, it's a credo. So he's technically not really a Mandalorian by their standards, you know.
No, and growing up, the exposure he had was like no Mandalorian. It was all bounty hunter scum. Like
right. So it's they could do whatever they want with him, so long as they don't try and do too much fan servicey stuff, which I don't think they will. So I think it's a fun little nod, but the true story is about, you know, it's about Mando. It's not about Boba Fett. So unless there's like a redemption arc, which would be really nice. I'd like to see that, because this show is really good at kind of playing with actually having a story arc, you know, where like people who you don't know how they're going to end up by the end of the season. You know, they could start out like scumbags, and then at the end of the season, they're like sacrificing their lives for the greater good. I don't think I think a lot of people that are like, oh my God, it's really not.
I think it'll be an episode or two arc. They might not even touch on it for an episode or two, and it'll pop back up and be something that they sort of move into something. I hope it's not a big thing either. Like, I hope it's just...
Dude, I mean, I'm more excited for like Ahsoka and Sabine if they show up.
If that is a thing, yeah.
If it's a thing, I'm more excited for that, because
me too, man.
Dude, I cried when I'm glad you said it. We almost said it at the same time. That's funny. I cried in Rebels, man. Like, that show got me like more than one occasion, because it told so many good human stories, man. Like the characters were so grounded in humanity and dripping with flaws and
I can't talk about a Hera or Kanan without fucking getting
dude,
weird.
Stop.
So
Sarah walked
I get it.
Dude, she walked in on me and I was like, oh my God.
Sorry, Butter.
No, it's all good. I was going to say, I'm ready to see more Moff Gideon, so I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys. I hope we don't spend too much time on this Boba Fett.
I
think her and the Sabine stuff, her and the Sabine, like, that's, you know, her sister, or Bo-Katan had the Darksaber the last time we saw it. So something something happened between then, the end of Rebels, and, you know, Moff Gideon getting it, which
God, that's a lot. That's a long
can't be good.
time.
So it sounds like for the most part, we're all kind of on the same page. I think we can all say that this episode came out really strong. highly enjoyable. I mean, I don't think there's much for us to kind of nitpick or bring it down for. So I think it definitely ranks rather high, I think, coming out the gate for this new season. And I was curious, where else do you want to see the rest of the series to go, whether that be, introduction of new characters or maybe character arcs or plot points that you want to see touch on or expand on?
I think I was, full disclosure, I was over at Disney this past weekend, and just to see the influx of Baby Yoda merchandise or the child that was just everywhere. I went back in February, and it was just, you were lucky enough to find a cup. Now that you have half of stores that are just dominated by this character, and we really didn't see that much outside of reaction shots in this first episode. So I think that that's definitely an opportunity for them to build on that lore in the future.
Lars, what about you?
So I love Rebels characters. I love Clone Wars, especially later. So I can't wait in Rebels, I don't want to spoil much of it, but at this point, Sabine and Ahsoka technically should be somewhere in the galaxy together on a mission. So if he ends up bringing the child to his people, which could possibly mean that's where Ahsoka comes in, Ahsoka and Sabine lead to themselves, but they also lead to Ezra. They lead to where the fuck Thrawn is. So it just opens up this insane, I don't know, stuff that I'm very, very excited about. Fanboy shit that could never come to fruition, but I'm excited for the possibility.
Okay. I like that. See, what about you, man? What do you want to see them continue doing?
I'd like to see them continue to make not the narrative the point of the show. I'd like to see them continue to make the characters the point of the show. And I think they're doing a great job already. To tie in with what Lars was saying, I think they could do that beautifully if the Mandalorian ends up meeting with Ahsoka and Sabine, and that would be another personal thing he'd have to get over, that the Jedi and the Mandalorian, they don't really got good history with each other, as far as, and he comes from a cultural perspective of not knowing, apparently doesn't know anything about the Force, because he says, like, yeah, the child can move things with his mind. It's like, not really. He's more or less manipulating a mystical energy field that's a substitute for religion, but sure, Mando, he's moving things with his mind. Right. So it's like, it'll be interesting to see how they interact with each other from a dramatic perspective, because I think that's more or less what's going to last, and I think it's what people that sign on to do the show, like, do it for, because it's something that they can be like, yo, I worked on this. Like, this shit matters. We're like making some of the oldest stories in humanity relevant and relative to people again in this weird day and age we live in.
Well said. Mine's a little personal in the sense of I really enjoy the different aliens, monsters, and things in Star Wars. Like, one of my favorite episodes from season 1 was episode 2, where he has to fight the Mudhorn. And I think it's because it just kind of switches it up, because he does, the seedy kind of underworld, mercenary life really well. So it's fun to see him put into an element where you wouldn't expect the mercenary to be in. And that's fighting like these very crazy looking, well-designed, imaginative monsters. So I really liked the Krayt Dragon. To Lars, to your point that you brought up earlier, I think when I saw when the Krayt Dragon makes its introduction and it's shaking the whole ground and everything, it's a physical reaction from everyone, and then you see it kind of jump out and eat the Bantith. That was my moment of, oh damn, they got some money this season. They got more money this season. So I'm excited to hopefully see maybe more of that, the different monsters and alien races in this series. So I'm hoping they start, continue to like give us more of that visual appeal, because that's always been my thing. Is every episode of season 1 felt like kind of an anthology. They all kind of felt like they stood on their own. Not only was it a different director every episode and a different vision and execution, but there was also like a tonal change in every episode, or difference. As well as like just visuals and the setting. So I want to see more of that. I want to see them get really crazy with some of these planets he goes to and the different races he meets. I think that's always been my favorite.
I was going to say, no, that's a very 60s thing too. Like the original Star Trek series was kind of looked upon as like an anthology show, because they wanted it to be a Western, and Gene Roddenberry's like, I think you're missing the point. I'm trying to do like really high brow science fiction where it's kind of like a utopian vision of the future. It's all about exploration. And the execs were like, yeah, but make a Halloween episode when you get a chance. Can you do that?
Did anything surprise you guys from this episode? Because one thing that I've got noted here is I was not expecting the bile. I thought that was a good switch up. It felt pretty safe in my opinion the episode. And then when the bile was introduced, it kind of amplified the danger of this crate dragon outside of him being an enormous fucking monster. Mm-hmm. And his bile was evaporating, everyone. And I was like, oh wow, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect this kind of edge to this episode, and I wonder if that carries through for the rest of the series, especially since we're going to have more Moff Gideon and Boba Fett being introduced. I wonder if we get a darker series.
I think for me, it wasn't really anything that was surprising, but more of a reminder. And that in particular is in reference to Pedro Pascal's acting without even seeing his face. Just his mannerisms, the way he carries himself, head tilts, just random mannerisms that he's doing. He's acting without seeing his face.
You know what? And that I agree 100%. And that was made very apparent when Tim Oliphant makes his appearance in the armor. I felt like he looked so clumsy and dorky
because he was like, "You're gonna take this off, or I'm gonna take." Yeah,
it off and I was like, "I don't blame you, Mando. He ain't putting respect on that armor like you are. He's not carrying it."
And he stopped dead in his tracks when he took the helmet off,
and you could feel that glare even behind the mask. He was like, "No, he's looking at him like you motherfucker." Mm-hmm.
What about you? Those are great acting choices, man. Those are. Man, solid actors. Solid actors know how to do that. From standing up to a weird pose to where you pick up on it, where it's like, damn, he looks silly. He was like a skinny ass dude inside that Mandalorian armor.
He looked like high school me trying to rock the armor and look tough. I was like, take that
it definitely didn't fit. But the scene where you got to finally see the viewfinder drop and then he homed in on that speeder running away and you got to see that rocket fire, which you never got to see before, and blow that thing up. It was dope. That was sick.
Yeah. Lars, wasn't that a callback to the OG Boba Fett toy?
Yeah, the original toy had it. Boba had it on him, but he just never used it. But yeah, the original toy had the rocket, spring powered rocket that never made it to mass market.
So it's a choking hazard.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do we know anything about next week's episode, which would be chapter 10? I don't even think there's a
I don't go looking for any of that stuff, man.
So. Yeah, I'm staying away from it.
Yeah, I will say this is outside of maybe the little Easter egg videos that me and Blythe will watch afterwards. I don't mind waiting a week. It's kind of fun. I look forward to, at least for season 1, I always looked forward to Fridays when the episode would drop because it was a nice 40 minutes. I don't.
Well, see, I'm kind of the opposite. I want a next episode preview. I want to get all the clues. I want to be able to look at it and be able to decipher it and break it down. Because one thing I did notice is that in this first episode, we saw a lot of the scenes from the official trailers. We saw all of those scenes in episode 1. So it's a good indication that those trailers didn't give away much.
That's a good point.
They probably don't want to. There's too many. If Rosario Dawson ends up being Ahsoka in this show, they've done an amazing job, but it's not beyond them to be able to do that because the child was such a well-kept secret. Yeah. It's definitely possible, and that's probably why they don't want to show much because there's probably going to be some mind-blowing shit that's going
to. Well said.
Ezra might show up, out of nowhere.
We could get Space Aladdin.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll just have to wait for next week to hop on the mics again and share our excitement. I think we're at a good stopping point for this episode. But before we go and wrap it up officially, how about I go around the room and give everyone a chance to share any last-minute comments or remarks about the episode before we sign off. Lars, I'll look to you, man. Any last-minute remarks?
I really loved it. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the wait. It's like Christmas Day, I feel the anticipation. I'm so glad that I think the beginning of last season, they dropped 2 episodes or something like that on the release day. I'm so glad that they're doing one at a time. I do not want to binge this show. I want to soak it in, I'm excited.
All right. C, closing remarks from you, buddy.
I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying the show. I think it's good. It's put me in a in a very creative mood. It's making me write music like in a different way. I like the art. I like just seeing a television show where people give a crap, and it's essentially a small group of craftsmen that care about trying to put something out that is that's good. You know, it's got that spirit of the 70s, and I'm all about the fucking 70s, man.
Oh yeah, couldn't agree more, buddy. Blythe, closing remarks.
I think for me, it's definitely a welcome back for this show because it gives people something to look forward to. And I think for months and months, we've sort of, you know, to bring the real world back into this fantasy land. There's a lot of bullshit going on in the real world. So this is a welcome distraction from all of those things. And I feel like Star Wars is a lot like sports, where it brings people together. It gives you something to look forward to, depending on how your team is performing. But it's one of those things that I think about, and I'm like, oh yes, you know, obviously the election is on Tuesday. We're recording this on a Sunday, but next Friday we have a new episode of The Mandalorian. No matter what is going on in the real world, we have something to look forward to that'll distract us for a little bit.
Yeah, and I think too, C had said something, you know, about this being done by a group of craftsmen, and I know my you know, faith in this was definitely solidified as far as like, oh, that this is only going to continue to get better. Was that little documentary series that came out after season 1, and getting to see like the passion and how articulate and hands on everyone was for this project. My confidence is really high. Like, I know every Friday I'm going to get like a good product, like something that, you know, is going to, they're going to push the boundary, or they're going to try to top themselves.
They put their heart and soul into it, and you can tell in the end result.
I think I'll go ahead and probably go on record early and say I doubt that we'll get a bad episode this season, because I can't really think of a bad episode from season 1. There might have been like a slow, like a dull or something, but I feel like they've definitely hit their stride, and this episode was a good introduction to, hey, here's a good, you know, flashback and you know, homage to the first season. You know, Mando has grown. The child is still here. We're about to take you on for an adventure. This is just a taste of all like the new danger and things that you're going to get to see. So, they've got my attention and my hype.
I forgot. I just thought of something. Jon Favreau's production company is called, Golem. Have you guys seen that little logo at the end of the credits?
Golem? Is that a play off Gollum?
No. Golem is in the Jewish myth about the ginormous monster made of clay to protect the villagers, right? Like, it's just, it looks almost like, you know, the Thing from the Fantastic Four. But Jon Favreau basically created this production company and titled it for the reason of he doesn't want to rely too much on technology, because the Golem kind of represents that, and it's easy to fall into that trap of basically letting special effects dictate how good a show can be, which is something that is very relevant to Star Wars. And I like that he kind of is like, nah, but it's a reminder, guys. It's about, you know, heart and characters and, you know, telling good stories, and let's, you know, the technology's nice. Special effects are nice. Let's not rely on them. I just thought I looked that up and I was like, oh, weird. Golem. I wonder if that's in reference to the myth. So it seems like everybody's heart's in the right place, and they're being respectful and responsible with Star Wars.
Wasn't it Werner Herzog that said, don't be a coward when it comes to using the Baby Yoda puppet?
Right.
Yep.
He was, it's essentially, more or less like, don't be afraid. It's artistic, you know, who cares what the suits tell you? It doesn't matter.
All right. Well, I think we're at a good stopping point now. For those of you listening, if you want to share your thoughts or maybe an Easter egg or something that we might have missed in this episode, feel free to shoot us an email. Let us know your thoughts. theshortboxjacks@gmail.com is where you can send those. And we'll look forward to reading it. And like I said, we're going to try to go ahead and keep this weekly thing going. So, you know, every Saturday or Sunday, Monday, you can expect a review episode following, you know, the debut of the Friday. So we'll see how long that lasts before, you know, I lose my mind. But hopefully you guys enjoy this. We'll continue enjoying The Mandalorian with you guys. So tune in next week. And if you aren't already subscribed to the Shortbox Podcast, do so. We're available on most podcast apps. So give us that subscribe and check out our weekly episodes if you're a fan of comic books and comic interviews. That being said, we're going to end the show. Thank you guys so much for listening. Catch you next week.